I'm Aaron.
I'm Asia.
And I'm Trevor.
And you're listening to Deadly Sips.
You guys, we have Papa Rowland back on the podcast.
Papa's in the house.
Trevor, welcome back. He's my dad, so it's weird calling him Trevor. So we're going to get into some business real quick. Of course, you guys, you can follow us on all of our socials at Deadly Sips Podcast. And if you feel so inclined to come hang out with us on our Patreon, come do that. We're posting a lot of fun afterthought and pre-thought episode things.
Yes.
Get all the extra goodies over there. Got some fun things in the works, so go join us on Patreon. So, what's everybody been up to this week? It's the Super Bowl today, for those of you who don't know. We're moving this week, so that's fun. We're just moving to a different house.
Yeah.
But still same area. Dad, how's your week been?
A lot warmer up. I'm up in North Dakota, and things are kind of thawing out. And having a wild Super Bowl party here at my house that I'm staying at, and being introduced to some new thoughts and new ideas. So it's been fun.
Yeah. You're like, ooh.
I learned how to play street dice today. And lost some money. I donated some money to the cause today.
There you go. There you go.
I was hustled.
All right, guys. Each week we pair a chilling episode with a themed cocktail and mocktail for you sober sippers. Tonight's Deadly Sip of the Week is called the Oubliette Olive. It's a dirty martini inspired by the darkest corner of Lep Castle. Salty, sharp, and unapologetically cold. This drink is smooth going down, much like the oubliette itself.
All right.
Now, you guys, today's episode, we are talking about Lep Castle. It's in Ireland. For those
you read it, it looks like Leap Castle, but you said it correctly. It's Lep Castle.
Yeah, it's Leap. And I'm excited to have Dad/Trevor on with us.
As they call me here at the house, T.
T, perfect. I'll call you T. I'm excited to have T here because he has firsthand accounts over at Lep Castle. So how this is going to work, we're going to cover a lot of the history in the first part, and the second half will be a little bit more of the paranormal encounters and paranormal experiences behind it. And yeah, let me go ahead and go in with our intro. In the heart of Ireland, there stands a castle with a reputation even locals whisper about. Lep Castle has seen betrayal, bloodshed, and centuries of violence within its walls, from brutal family feuds to hidden dungeons, and an oubliette packed with human remains. Over the years, countless visitors have reported shadow figures, disembodied voices, and an overwhelming presence that seems to watch from the dark. Tonight, we're diving into the dark history and paranormal legends surrounding Lep Castle, and we're joined by somebody who experienced it firsthand. We will learn what he encountered inside those walls. So turn on the lights, grab a drink, and let's step into Lep Castle. That was brilliant. Bloody brilliant.
Thank you. I'm here all week.
Now, you guys, Lep Castle to me is one of those historical pinnacle locations in ghost hunting. And the history behind this place is absolutely insane. It's bonkers. It is known as one of the world's most haunted castles. And we have documented paranormal activity since 1950s forward. Obviously, I think it happened much before that.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a lot of documentation from the 50s forward. So very haunted place. And after looking into the history, you guys, there's no freaking wonder why this castle is haunted. This castle has definitely seen some shit. You could write an entire HBO TV series about the history because it screams Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go ahead and put a quick little disclaimer here because there's so much history behind this castle. It's honestly, there are parts where it gets a little difficult to follow along, and I struggled at first while researching. And usually I would try to summarize a lot of the information just to kind of water it down. But I think in this particular case, a lot of the history is so important to help give us an understanding of Lep Castle and why it is so notorious. And so if you need to, grab a notebook or, put on a tinfoil hat. Pick your poison. Do what you got to do just to stay along. All right. So just starting off, like we said, very Game of Thrones stuff going on in this castle. Before the castle existed, supposedly the area where the castle was built was known to be run by druids back in the day. Do you guys know what a druid is?
Yes.
Dad, do you know what a druid is?
I'm not certain. Are they the little people on Star Wars? Yeah.
What are those things called?
Droids?
No, not droids. Not droids. Those
The
little people I got
people.
on Tatooine. Those little, not those. Those are the Ewoks. But and Tatooine, the people that like they hit you with their sticks and they aren't they? They're not. They have that.
That's sand people.
Oh, sand people.
Oh, wait.
The sand people are the ones that shoot at you, while the smaller ones do the trading.
I thought they were the smaller ones. I thought they had a similar name as Druid, but no, maybe I'm just out there.
My gosh. I love that so much. Now, the way that I think about druids is that they're the Irish version of a witch or a warlock. But in Ireland, culturally, they were like pagan priests and priestesses. Mm-hmm. They were very respected. People would often turn to them for guidance, like a shaman or...
Yeah.
They were prophets and advisors. So very early on in the land, we have this kind of mystical connection already starting and going. Another thing to note here for our paranormal friends is the fact that the castle is set on a ley line. Ooh. Now, ley lines, I don't know if you guys have really heard much about ley lines, heard the theories about ley lines, but in theory, they are straight, invisible lines or paths that connect landmarks. These landmarks could be historical, prehistoric, or natural landmarks across their service. The idea was proposed by Alfred Watkins in the 1920s as an ancient trader surveying route, and the concept has evolved to include ideas of energy, spiritual power, centers, etc. So essentially, there are these straight lines, and they have been strongly connected to energy. I know, and it's so interesting because a lot of high activity places are on a ley line. Waverly Hills Asylum's on a ley line.
So, sorry to interrupt, but you just
please do.
So the lady that I was on my tour with in Ireland, the Amityville Horror House, the lady on my tour lived on that block, and she has a ton of activity in her house, and she claims there's a ley line running through there as well.
I believe that, and it's interesting because there's always those high connections of just higher activity. It's more energy. You think about in paranormal theory, if you will, entities draw on energy. Mm-hmm. And when there's nothing there, they draw from energy of other things, whether it's EMF or cameras, right? Some type of electrical.
The mitochondria in the cell.
Yeah, the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. The one thing we took from high school, everybody. And there's a lot of debate out there in general on ley lines, but I mean, it is a factor here.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I'll let you take with that with you will. So we have the druids, we have ley lines, which they may or may not be connected. Who knows? Now, going to construction on the castle, there's a lot of debate exactly when the castle was built, but there's a general consensus it was sometime in the 1500s. It was in the 1500s by the O'Bannon clan. And it was called, I think in Gaelic, but it was called the Lep of the O'Bannons. Now, you guys, really early on, we got conflict. Very first off, this is before the castle had been built. This is when the site had been chosen for the castle, but it had not been built yet. The chief of the clan passed away, and two fighting brothers, of course, debated on who the new rightful chief was. And they came up with a fun solution to settle this debate.
Kill each other.
They decided, even better, they decided that they'd leap from a rock outcrop, which is like a small cliff, where the castle is to be built, and the sole survivor would govern the clan and be responsible for the construction. Which I'm like, first of all, very stupid plan.
Dumb way to die.
Dumb way to die. What if they both died?
Unfortunate.
I know. They're like, oh, nobody wins.
I've seen some families trying to settle estates, and I'd like to see them try that way. I think it would be...
You're like, it's easier that way. Just jump off a cliff and see. Yeah. But it's like, why can't we just spin the bottle? Like, it could have been any other thing, but no, let's jump off of a cliff. I don't know if it was like a custom back then or just their own idea, but anyway. So sadly, the O'Bannon's reign didn't last long, as they were a smaller clan under the O'Carrolls, who were notoriously known for being greedy, cunning, and just an overall powerful family. And eventually the O'Carrolls seized the castle from the O'Bannons. And grab your notebooks. Legend says a lot of murders took place here at the hand of the O'Carrolls. It's a lot. You know, in the Bible, when you're reading it, it's like so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so. This is going to be like that. So-and-so killed so-and-so killed so-and-so. It's a lot. But I think it's interesting. The O'Carrolls were a powerful and violent clan, and they often had power struggles. John O'Carroll was the first Prince of Ely who lived in Lep, and he was likely responsible for the earliest sections of the castle construction. And John sadly passed away from the plague. Now, John O'Carroll was succeeded by his son, named Mulroney O'Carroll. Mulroney was actually renowned for his strength, bravery, and valor, and was considered a great leader. The great Mulroney, as he was known, died at Lep in 1532 after a rulership of 42 years. And this is honestly probably the only good era of peace that this castle saw. The only good thing that happened was those 42 years. Mulroney was succeeded by his son, Fergenheim.
Fergen.
And boy, did the apple fall far from the tree. Fergenheim O'Carroll was said to have murdered a guest at the dinner table.
Oh my.
And he had his steward killed the guest servant in the guard room. So there's that. Fergenheim was murdered in 1541 by the O'Malloys, which is another clan. He was succeeded by Teague the One-Eyed, as they called him. Lots of fun history here. So Teague took reign and then was killed by his kin Charles O'Carroll. And then Charles was slain by Teague's younger brother, William, in 1554. And I'm sure, as you guys can guess, William was killed in 1581 by O'Connor relatives. Now, William, the one who got killed, he fathered 4 sons, and his son, John, took over. John only lasted a year. He was slayed the next year by his cousin, Moroni, who was the son of Teague the One-Eyed. So he was killed by his cousin. Very Game of Thrones. Lots of, just sounds like family problems. We're just killing each other at this point. John's brother, Charles O'Connor, killed Moroni, and Charles became knighted, which is interesting because he was not a good person. Charles was killed in 1600 in retaliation because he killed 150 of his own men of the McHone nobles. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Supposedly, he had lost his trust in his own men, and when it came time for him to pay a bunch of these men, he had them killed in their sleep.
Bro.
Like 150 guys, so really D-bag move.
Really D-bag.
Really D-bag. And the McNone family is the most notorious murders that the O'Carrolls had. Supposedly, the O'Carrolls owed them money for some reason. I couldn't find out why, but they did. And so the O'Carrolls invited the McMahons in. Sorry. It's spelled McMahon.
McMahon.
Is it McMahon?
It's McMahon.
Okay. McMahon, everybody. I've been saying that wrong. But the O'Carrolls invited the McMahons in. Now, the McMahons were invited to a feast, and instead of paying them, the O'Carrolls poisoned them.
Oof.
Which gives me the Red Wedding vibes from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
So that was a big thing. Now, we're going to go into an area called the Chapel, aka the Bloody Chapel. This is where the chief of O'Carroll died, and there's the incident of Thaddeus and Teague. Now, this is a different Teague. Thaddeus was a priest and was murdered in the middle of a mass. He was giving a sermon by his brother Teague. And the place is now known as the Bloody Chapel. It's like brother killing brother. And when I looked back into the history, I was like, why did that happen? Thaddeus started the service without Teague. There was other stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But Teague, this was known to him as a big offense. The fact that he started without him. Mm-hmm. And he killed him over it. He's like, dude, you started without me. Oh, wild. I'm going to go a little bit more deeper into individual things a little later, but they have had strange occurrences of light in the windows. Strange claims that people will see the lights on. And this has been happening for years, and they'll call the now owner, and the owner will get calls saying, oh, hey, like the light is on in the chapel, but there's no lights even in there. So that's just a common thing that happens.
That's just an automatic voicemail, or the answering machine says, if you are calling about the lights in the chapel, press 1. It goes to, there's no lights in the chapel, it's just our friendly ghosts partying.
Yep. Something. This candlelight. Some other common little things is they report seeing Thaddeus' spirit. Blood stains are still seen. And chanting is heard. Chanting. There's a lot more, but I'm going to get into it later. In the 1900s, an oubliette was found. Do you guys know what an oubliette is?
No idea.
No.
The word oubliette means a place of forgetting. Back in medieval times, it would be used as a storage room, but this one in particular, it had a trap door over it, and they believe that they kept spikes in there. And it was booby-trapped for the people to fall 8 feet onto these spikes, and there was a small, teeny tiny window where they could see the family eating and dining. So, like, you would literally be impaled and be watching the family having dinner and enjoying themselves.
Dude.
They said it'd take days for them to die.
Oh,
my
that's
gosh.
so sad.
And they just sit there enjoying their dinner.
They're like, oh, yes.
While they're screaming below. Great.
Dinner with a side of moaning pain. Dinner and a show.
Can you pass the dying cries, please?
Now, when they found the oubliette behind the wall in the chapel, there were human skeletons that they found on the spikes. And there were so many, it took 3 trips to remove them all.
Wow.
Yeah. The current owner, Sean Ryan, says that there's the spirit of a man that he often has experienced trying to climb his way out of the oubliette. And he's also seen this man in other parts of the castle, so he can come and go. But it's not often. It's rare that he'll see him. He's been seen sitting in chairs, pulling pictures off the walls, and I don't know, it just seems more of kind of an intelligent haunt with him being able to move around. In the 1600s, it switched ownership. The daughter of a reigning O'Carroll chief became enthralled with a prisoner, Captain Darby. She would sneak him food, and they developed a plan to get him out and elope. She freed him, and they started to escape, and they ran into her brother in the stairwell, which is like a classic movie moment.
Yeah.
Darby killed the brother with a sword upon his death, another person, and she became the heiress of the castle once he died, because he was the original
Why
heir.
leave now? We have a house.
I know. Of course, they got married, took over the castle, and started a family. Like the way, all great relationships start with murder.
The Ireland dream. Kill your brother to get a house and the picket fence.
Yep.
Makes me wonder when crime scene investigations were invented.
I know, it's true. Just speculating, it was probably more so on who was in charge of the police at the time.
I don't know that it doesn't seem like anybody even questioned it. They're just like, okay. It's like ownership or possession is like 9/10 of the rule. It's like being alive is like 9/10 of the rule. He's dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of the game. Well, another interesting too is it was well known that I didn't put this in my notes, but that the O'Carrolls would also hire mercenaries and have them just go kill people when they inconvenienced them. And that was a well-known thing. And they would also, when the mercenaries would come back, they would
Kill them
they
because
would
they knew
kill
too
them.
much.
Yeah, they would kill them.
Why pay you when I can just kill you?
That's exactly what they did, and they were known for it. I don't know, it's wild.
Petty.
Things were way simpler back then in those days.
Yeah. Now, going back to this Captain Darby, he was very temperamental and became known as the Wild Captain.
Ooh.
He made a huge fortune, and he would hide it in compartments throughout the castle. But he started struggling with some type of dementia, and he forgot where a lot of those places were. And legend says the treasure's still there. So you can, you can see his ghost looking for his treasure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a common thing. There was a lot of interesting history behind that as well, between the ownership during his period. he like lost it and gained it a couple times. A lot of this you can read on lepcastle.net. You can read all the first-hand accounts there. Now, the Darbys abandoned the castle in 1922. Ireland was fighting for independence from England, and they were an English family at the time, which made them targets. And the castle was bombed and raided, so it was literally and set on fire. And the castle, or what remained of the castle, was ravaged with gangrene.
Ew.
Yeah, and so people were like, bye-bye. It lay dormant until its purchase in the 70s by an Australian historian, Peter Bartlett. And he was an ancestor of the original founders, the O'Bannons.
Oh.
Yeah. So he did about 15 years worth of renovation. And as you can imagine, it was quite extensive. It was literally bombed.
We're closed for renovation for Spiffy and
Oh my gosh. Little Shop of Horrors. Now, Bartlett, he witnessed poltergeist type activity while working, and he hired a white witch to help get rid of whatever was going on. And there are claims that the spirits vowed not to cause trouble, but they wanted to stay. But renovations were cut short when Bartlett died in 1989. And for 2 years, it was left alone until 1991 when musicians Sean and Anne Bryan purchased the castle and took over restoration and are the present day owners. And they have made Leap Castle their home. So they live there.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, it's their home now.
Lucky.
I love it. The renovation process for Sean was not easy. When they embarked on renovating the castle, Sean had some accidents. He fell off of a ladder and broke his kneecap, and he took about a year to start up again. Shortly after starting, he had another accident which left him with a broken ankle.
Ooh.
Some weird experiences too he had during this time. He'd be working and he'd turn around and find that all his tools had been moved to the corner of the room. So he's like, what? So stuff
Tricksters.
was, right? Tricksters. He also hired a carpenter that randomly left. He refused to come back and say why.
Whoa.
He just up and left. Now, I mean, Lepp had a reputation, so a lot of the locals are aware of this, and maybe this guy knew that going in.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Ryan himself has experienced footsteps, things moving, chanting, his name being called, all the things. You can't stay there overnight, like I said, because it's their home, but Sean welcomes anyone who wants a tour of Lepp Castle. And before I get into the story of our first entity, I have to mention Mildred Darby. If you remember the name Darby, that was one of the previous owners.
Yep.
She was a descendant of Captain Darby. She is a psychic and gothic novelist. She would regularly perform seances within Lepp Castle, and some say this awakened a dark presence in the castle.
Oh.
But others claimed this presence awoke when they found the oubliette, but they were kind of around the same time. Who knows? But Miss Darby documented a lot of her experiences and would write articles in an occult magazine. So her name comes up a lot in a lot of these experiences. So the first of the entities is the murdered woman. A spirit of a woman can be seen and heard wearing very few clothes, red cloth draped on her face. She will scream twice and vanish, according to Mildred Darby, and Sean has also confirmed this. He's had experiences with this and confirmed this. Next, we have an area known as the Priest's House. Just outside the castle is the Priest's House. It's still an empty shell. It hasn't been renovated or anything. Miss Darby would see shadowy figures wandering through that building, and people have associated the same spirit with these experiences. People claim something heavy that lies on people's beds and hear it snoring next to them.
Oh.
Or they feel the body of somebody pressed up against them. Which in the priest's house, they claim to see a burly man in peasant clothes he's the one who's associated with these. And then, of course, the Bloody Chapel, where the priest was murdered by his brother. And people will often see a monk with a hood, and it will walk in from one window and leave through the other. Or people, it was funny because I watched Ghost Hunters, and they had this experience, which 3 of the guys, they didn't tell each other, but they all saw the face of the monk with the hood.
I need to watch this episode.
You do. It's really interesting. And also the strange occurrences with the lights. That was also another thing I thought was cool that was on Ghost Hunters as well. There's incidents of the 2 girls at Lepp Castle. Visitors have reported seeing them playing and calling for each other, named Emily and Charlotte. Now, Emily died at 11 from falling from a battlement.
Oh.
People will see her fall, and Charlotte is running after her.
Sad.
Charlotte's ghost has some type of deformed leg, and then we'll see her running like she's limping. So, but they're not sure how she died. And then there's another entity, the Red Lady. She is a tall specter in a flowing red gown holding a long blade. Now, there's...
Please, no.
I know. This one's really sad. So, just warning, there's some sad stuff coming up. So, she was supposedly captive by the O'Carrolls. She was raped repeatedly, and she gave birth to baby while she was imprisoned. And supposedly, the O'Carrolls had murdered the child. She was overcome with grief over the loss of her child, and she committed suicide. Guests of the Darbys wrote their experience with the Red Lady, and you can read the first-hand accounts on the website. There's a lot of them. But to summarize one of the main experiences, she's sleeping in the castle. She wakes up, and she sees a woman in a flowing dress holding a knife or a dagger. She couldn't quite see. She lights the match, and then she sees that the room is empty. The shadow is completely gone. When she
Creepy.
The biggest and most notorious entity at Lep Castle is by far the elemental. When it manifests, it is not friendly. Elemental spirits are short creatures and have abilities tied to what they're associated with. This one has potential to cause great harm to anyone it wants to. They are created from the energy of the environment, such as war zones or areas with high elemental concentration. And this specific elemental supposedly can alter atmospheric pressure. The pressure will lower, it gets cold, which I feel like a lot of entities general can kind of do, but this one's to another level.
It's Yoda.
It's Yoda. It's Yoda. Yes. I think he's like the Force. But it actually can cause, they did some studies on this, and there's actually a medical, what's the word, like condition associated with this? Serotonin hyperfunction syndrome. Which your skin and hair will have a charge, and to certain people it can actually be deadly. Really interesting, which this has been tied to interactions with the elemental. What's spookier than all of this is I feel like the name that they gave this thing, they call him It.
Ooh.
They just call him It, which I'm like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't know why that bugs me, but I'm like, It? He's been named this for decades. Now, another thing, it has kind of like a decomposing facial feature and a stench that accompanies the spirit, which people kind of say a mixture between, they say burning flesh and sulfur. It's kind of like that dead stench.
Gangrene.
Gangrene, yeah, it's also a good thing, yeah.
It's not a fun smell.
No, I don't want to know.
You don't.
I don't ever want to know. A lot of people have felt his presence. That's more what people will see and feel, but there's been a lot of instances where people have actually seen him and had experiences with him firsthand. There's so many on the website. It's kind of wild, but I'm just going to name 3. I don't want to make this too long. Now, the thing to know about the elemental is that it only makes itself known if it's provoked. Sean and Anne Ryan, they've lived there since 1991 and they've never had any experiences to this degree, but they're also not being stupid and provoking it.
Oh, yeah.
They're not like poking it with a stick.
They've come at peace that, hey, this is their house too. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm going to read you guys a description by Mildred Darby, her first-hand experience. Now keep in mind she was a writer, so I think it's just interesting the way that she writes because she really can convict the emotion she's trying to get. I don't know, I'll just let you guys feel it because it's interesting. Suddenly, 2 hands were laid on my shoulders. I turned round sharply and saw, as clearly as I see you now, a gray thing standing a couple feet from me, with its bent arms raised as if it were cursing me. I cannot describe in words how utterly awful the thing was. Its very undefinableness, rendering the horrible shadow more gruesome. Human in shape, a little shorter than I am, I could just make out the shape of big black holes, like gray eyes and sharp features, but the whole figure, head, face, hands, and all was gray, unclean, bluish gray, something of the color and appearance of common cotton wool, but oh so sinister and repulsive and devilish. My friends who are clever about occult things say it was what they call an elemental. The thing was about the size of a sheep, thin, gaunt, and shadowy in parts. Its face was human, or to be more accurate, inhuman in its vileness, with large holes of blackness for eyes, loose slobbery lips, and a thick dripping jaw, sloping back suddenly into its neck. Nose, it had none, only spreading cancerous cavities, the whole face being a uniform tint of gray. This, too, was the color of the dark, coarse hair covering its head, neck, and body. Its forearms were thickly coated with the same hair, so were its paws, large, loose, and hand-shaped, and it sat on its hind legs. One hand or paw was raised, and a claw-like finger was extended, ready to scratch the paint. Its lustreless eyes, which seemed half decomposed and looked incredibly foul, stared into mine, and the horrible smell which it had before offended my nostrils, only 100 times intensified, came up to my face, filling me with a deadly nausea. I noticed the lower half of the creature and was indefinite and seemed semi-transparent at least. I could see the framework of the door that led the gallery through its body.
That whole description basically gives me the whole look of the history of this castle.
No, yeah.
All the murders and torture and who knows what else happened. That describes what this castle is.
Yeah, it's like it created this creature. There were two other really interesting experiences, but I'm not going to read those outright either. I'm just going to kind of tell you about them because the one fact about it I thought was interesting. So there was an experience on June 18th of 2002. There was a paranormal investigator working for a local TV network, and he was doing a bit on it. And he had a crazy experience. Long story short, he saw a light, and he knew and felt it was the elemental, and he turned around to go away from it, and he felt something rush up on him, and he felt a piercing in his side. Later on throughout the day, he felt like he was almost spiritually bleeding out, like he felt like he was dying.
He got shanked.
But he wasn't, but he was like, that's how I felt.
That's crazy.
The interesting thing here, so June 18th, 2002, and then the same day, 4 years later, in 2006, there was another experience really similar.
Maybe that's...
So it was just interesting that it happened to be on the same day.
Residual of that day.
Maybe. This is just me putting on my tinfoil hat for a second. So there's speculation in the research that I found on the actual website that there's a previous account of somebody dying of leprosy, and they think this person could be that. But my only thing with elemental spirits is they're not people who have lived before.
Yeah.
So that contradicts it. But it's just it's, I don't know, it's like spooky tale.
Like I said, it's all of what happened there just mushed into one. So like you said,
It's
it
the
was
energy.
created.
Yeah.
And so that memory of the piercing made, I was saying, it could be the leprosy of how it looks from that person who had leprosy, but then also the brother being stabbed. Maybe that happened on, what was it, June 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
June
maybe
18th.
maybe it happened that day.
Maybe. That's true.
That's one thing that the spirit does, because it remembers. It remembers.
It remembers.
So.
Yeah, it's true. Just another little tidbit. Some more of those ghost hunters experiences that I thought was just interesting. They saw the lights. Somebody ended up getting knocked over.
Oh.
They smelled sulfur and burned rubber, which is another claim.
Demons.
And then the face of the monk. So yeah, that is kind of just sad but to say. That's a very brief overview of the history on this place. I didn't even say all the deaths that happened. I did a lot of them. So you guys, we have all these things. We have ley lines, druids, seances, occult. We have all these crazy murders and conspiracies and things going on in this castle. And it's so interesting. Just so much into this castle. Now you can see why it's probably the most haunted castle in Ireland, right?
Very much.
There's so much. So you guys, T had some experiences. I don't know, Dad, if you want to go around, talk about your trip and what you experienced there, and just kind of give us your encounter.
So this give you a sense of timeline. I was at the Lep Castle on Halloween night, 2024. So not this last Halloween, but the previous Halloween before that. I was in Ireland for approximately 11 days, and it's interesting you talk about ghost hunters because the person that started TAPS, Grant Wilson, was there with us, and I was there with him and his wife. He's one of the most genuine people I've ever met. I'm still in contact with him today, and he's an amazing person, and I'll consider a friend for life. So we had done quite a few paranormal investigations. This was not my first rodeo, and so Sean Ryan also owns a pub, and we went to this pub previously in the week and listened to him and his little music group perform. He plays the Irish flute. It's it's really a pretty cool experience, just really peaceful experience. He's just a cool cat. And we went to his house, his humble abode, the Let Castle, on Halloween night.
Just casually at the Lub Castle.
Any castle I was in was like, I mean, they're just like cold and damp and dank, and they're just like not homey places. They're not a place you would want to live in as a ghost. They're like, I don't know why.
Cozy.
They're cool. They're a fun place to visit, but nowhere you want to live. Why he wants to live there, I don't know. I think he's just a historian. But the entrance of the castle, he's made it quite homey. It's more of like a living quarter for him. Fireplace was burning. We gathered around. He played his flute for us, and we got a chance to talk about some things. We didn't get the history lesson of the Lep Castle. I had no idea what I was walking into.
Yeah.
So it was Halloween night. Our expectations were high. The energy was high. And we've had a ton of experiences in Ireland at this point, a ton of paranormal experiences. So we have high expectations. And so we went up to the Blood Chapel, and there are no lights up there. And it's funny, going up the stairwell in a castle, they make them a certain way to where you can't like use your right hand if you're going up. So the person on the top has the advantage. They can use their dominant hand to fight the person coming up. So the invader has a disadvantage. But anyways, the stairwells are very funky. The steps are just far enough apart. They would never pass health code anywhere. They're just trip hazards. And we went up to the top of the Blood Castle. It's just dark. And I remember setting up there, and it was weird because it has like a dirt floor, like on like however many levels you're up, how many stairwells you went up, like the third, fourth story, whatever it is. It's a fairly good sized room, and it was dark. And there's no windows, so it's like open to the elements. And the thing that got my attention was all of a sudden I could hear this. We're sitting down, we're getting ready to get into our investigation, and all of a sudden I hear this huge flapping noise. It freaked me out, and it was an owl flying around and trying to like get out. You're like, oh, it was so creepy. Now the reason why like my experience in the Blood Chapel was kind of underwhelming is because we use what's called the Estes method with a spirit box. So the lucky souls selected, like which was me, to put a noise canceling headphone on, and you can't see anyways. So you're in complete sensory deprivation. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can hear what is it? It's like it goes from radio channel to radio channel like very quickly. It scans random radio channels, frequencies, and you're just supposed to say whatever comes into your mind or whatever you think you hear. So you have three people sitting next to each other doing this, and because you're in sensory deprivation, like somebody will typically stand by you and touch you every once in a while because it gets kind of really, really creepy. So Grant Wilson or his wife Rihanna were asking questions to us, but I couldn't hear the questions. The rest of the people in our group could hear the questions, and we were just saying what comes into our mind. So you don't know the conversation. Now, on the outside listening in, I listened to the Estes method several times at different people doing it, and it sounded like quite an intelligent conversation that was pretty cool. But when you're experiencing the Estes method with the sensory deprivation and the spirit box,
yeah,
it's a one-sided conversation. You're just listening to your thoughts, and you just feel stupid. You feel like you're just saying things that don't make sense. They don't mean anything. Okay?
Yeah, you're just literally spitballing.
So whatever happened during this, I was never debriefed. But I was told after the fact that we were having perfect conversations with the questions being answered, and all three of us at times were answering at the same time.
Wow.
So a pretty fascinating experience outside looking in, but from my experience, it was a very lonely, weird, speaking to myself experience. So not a huge memorable experience in the Blood Chapel. Okay, but I do know that through the experience, we were able to like identify, I guess the entity called out somebody coming up the stairs, like a live person coming up the stairs. The entity said somebody's coming up the stairs, and had some interactions like that.
Wow.
And so from my angle, I'm not the best person to talk to because I didn't actually experience from a meaningful way because I was in sensory deprivation.
But it's really cool though, the concept of that. It's just because there's such straight continuity. Because, like you said, you're deprived, you don't know what's going on. So that's really cool.
But when I was able to observe in other castles, the people that were in the sensory deprivation, it was perfect entity to human, dead person to live person conversations. We were able to ask the entities what we look like to them, and they said shadows. And I thought that was so cool.
That is so interesting.
Now, the memorable experience that I had was a floor down. So Grant and Rihanna was there, and we also had another, the Puka Paranormal Group, really professional Ireland-based paranormal team led by a lady by the name of Rosemary. She was just an amazing person, which I noticed all these paranormal investigators are just amazing people that I just really just consider friends and just good people.
Mm-hmm.
And we went down to this, and I don't remember the name of the room, but it was basically just had a big long dining table on it, and there was just kind of like a storage room. There was like a mirror there, and there was a balcony, and there was like if I remember right, there's a suit of armor, and all these things were in there, and there was like 10 or 12 seats around this table. And Rosemarie sat us down purposely in different places of the table. She sat like males in certain seats of the table, and then females in certain seats of the table, and I was sitting at the head of the table. And we did a seance, and a seance isn't like what you see on TV. There wasn't like chanting or anything. We basically just hold hands. You just hold hands kind of like to increase the energy in the room. And Rosemary was the spokesperson. And she was talking and she was asking questions. And I started having an experience at this head of the table, and Rosemary kind of put her attention to me. And she told me afterwards she was very worried about me and she was going to pull me out. But what I was experiencing on my end, I was getting a very uncomfortable vibe. I felt a breathing on my neck. I felt something touch my hands, and I was embarrassed to say anything because I felt like it was kind of like Stacy's great grandma was trying to seduce me. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. It was embarrassing. It was kind of a seductive feeling. And Rosemary said that that's not an uncommon thing there for the female entity there to take attention to a male that's in the room. And I happened to be the target of that attention at that time. So she actually asked me to leave the circle. She was worried about me. And then I stood up and I was got behind the group. You gotta remember it's dark in the room, but you can still see, that level of light where you lose color. You can only see black and white. You can still see people in the room. And I'm just standing there watching, and all of a sudden I started feeling feelings. It's probably the only time in my life I've been an observer of my emotions. I couldn't understand. For me, on my left-hand corner, there was a lady sitting on this table, and we had visited with her, knew her and everything, but all of a sudden I started feeling feelings of anger towards her, like rage, like to the point like I almost could not control the feelings I was feeling, and I couldn't understand this. And I was looking at her, and this sounds a little bit cliched, but for a moment she looked like the nun to me. Like she took that image to me as I was looking at her, and I saw that image.
Wow.
And I had to blink, and like, is my mind playing tricks on me? And then I got this. If you feel, how you feel like when you're in a dream and you're just really angry and you want to yell at somebody but you can't. But I had that feeling, and I was holding myself back, and I did break silence, and I stopped the seance, and I says, I don't know why, but I am very angry at this lady here, and I want to start yelling at her, and I don't know what's happening. And then Rosemary said, okay, this is not uncommon. They've actually had to hold men back before from attacking a female, whoever's sitting in that corner.
Oh my God.
And apparently there is a male entity that is very misogynist, hates women, and acts out. But for all my paranormal investigation, this was a real eye-opener to actually realize that my emotions and even almost my actions can be hijacked by an entity. And it made me have a lot bigger respect for the art of paranormal investigation. And made me have a little bit more reverence toward it, that wow, I didn't realize that was even a possibility until I actually experienced it. So that was probably the most memorable thing that happened that night. Again, I was on the other end of sensory deprivation in the blood chapel, so I missed a lot. But other than that, there was not a whole lot to note. I think we were actually expecting a lot more for Halloween night, and we had some more activities from other castles. So it just goes to show you that paranormal investigating is kind of hit and miss. And sometimes, I mean, we were at the Shawville Castle, and we had just a plethora of experiences. We had so many experiences. And so I would love to go back someday to the Lep Castle and give it another go and see how it goes, because it's a hot spot of activity. It was just kind of like off that night for us.
Take us with you.
We're like, we're there. For the good of the mission, I will go.
We won't have another kid this time.
Right? Oh my gosh. That's so insane. I can't imagine just that feeling of like you're just not being in control to a degree. Like that just seems a little scary, but
yeah, I mean, you're suddenly feeling really weird toward another person for no reason.
Yeah.
It's very unsettling, and it's something I've only experienced that one time in my entire life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, granted, you were able to speak up about it before getting to the point of being held back by somebody. Yeah. So at least you spoke up.
Yeah. You feel I noticed though, during both of those experiences, I felt very embarrassed.
That's so interesting.
You know how victims
like ashamed almost, like victim shame.
I felt shame, yes, for sure, and I didn't want to say anything.
It just makes you think if that was like the intention of the entity, or if it was something else, like something else people were feeling there during that time, if that makes sense. Like that was situations that people have been put in and you were feeling that, or was the spirit just making you, does that make sense?
No, it does, totally. And I do, it's really interesting that like in a haunt or a paranormal situation, I mean, you can smell the smells of the time, you can hear the sounds of the time, you can even feel the feelings of the time, and like the shame of the time, you know what I'm saying? Like that it carries forward, and it's just a really unique, interesting experience.
Wow. Now, just to play devil's advocate with the whole entity, like they were saying it's a misogynistic spirit and everything, I'm just saying with your feelings of like shame, what if it was like, I don't know, a manservant who had like a higher up who was a woman that made him feel degraded and everything, so he hated her, but he felt shame because he couldn't do anything. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't, that's not even outside of possibility. I think the only thing that we know is completely anecdotal, which is that women get aggression whoever sits at the table. So
interesting. It could be like any type of moment in history kind of replaying itself to some degree.
It might not even actually be an intelligent haunt. It might just be the residual energy that's there.
Yeah, and just doing it over and over again. It's wild to me, especially with Lep Castle. I feel like just how various and vast the experiences are there. I feel like the energy definitely has something to do with that, because a lot of the times going into haunted places, you have very few claims that you're trying to either debunk or, do whatever. But this is just like a smorgasbord of claims. It has to be with the energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I guess, Dad, one of my questions for you too, just from your experience over there, not necessarily relating to Lep Castle, but where did you have the highest experience, you would say?
The Shawville Castle was incredible. The Shawville Castle, for me, blew out of the water. And you can tell people until you're blue in the face the experiences you had, they're still going to have doubts about what's next. But after being in the Shawville Castle, I have zero doubt that there is life next. We had interactive conversations. We just had so much happen the entire time we were there that it was just I would say action packed, for lack of a better word. It's just a rare moment that happens in a paranormal investigator's career.
Yeah.
But something that did strike me though, um, is a recurring theme that I saw we have happen in multiple castles is like, just to give you an example, they asked Rosemary was we were at a different castle, I don't remember the name, and they asked four females to go into a room, and they came out after being in this dark room for a few minutes, and they came out and they all said they felt nauseous and sick. So then they asked four males to go in the room, and I went into the room. And it was dark, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I don't feel anything. I feel kind of awkward. I'm going to go out there, and I'm supposed to be feeling something. I don't feel anything. And I went out there, and you think that somebody's just going to make something up, but we all were honest. We're also like, we didn't feel anything. And she's like, that
Yeah.
happens. That happens every time that they send
Oh.
females in, they get sick. They send males in, they don't. In this particular place, it happened in a prison. My wife and daughter got sick. I didn't feel anything. And so, like, there's energy that oppresses you by sex, by age, whatever. For some reason, leaves a negative experience with you, and it's just residual and hangs there. And so, like, that was kind of a recurring theme throughout our experiences there. Just that residual energy that happens to like just be in a place. It just kind of happens, and it's almost predictable. And they've tried it with many, 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 many different people, and it's the same outcome every time. So
It's funny too because I feel like people get so scared about the world of paranormal investigating and ghosts and spirits. On the opposite side of those things too, it's like, how does that correlate with positive experiences? Kind of like, I don't know, what I would correlate with, like maybe with you, Dad, the fairy farm.
that's a whole new thing to be explored. That Grant's in the process of exploring that, and it's what brought him. But I don't want to speak for Grant. Probably a little bit too much personal for Grant, but it just scratched the surface of the paranormal. There's a lot more. We already know that ghosts exist. We already know, and like Grant told me, he's like, it's not about whether it happens or not. It's about seeking for understanding, because we already know there's other powers and things that play here, like the Fae. I had some experiences with that opened my mind. Like, am I a full believer yet? I'm not there. But I had some experiences that made me be willing to have an open mind for sure.
That's kind of really why I'm also very excited about this podcast, is that I don't know, we get the opportunity to talk about it and to learn about those things a little bit more, hopefully. Even though a lot of it is just us doing research, but I would absolutely love to go and have even more experiences.
I would love that.
That relate to that.
I know one thing I wanted to say, and it's kind of out of context at this point, but one thing I want to say is that one of my biggest lessons, and I think you've talked about in this podcast before, but Grant gave us a really good education of the paranormal. And the one thing to pass along is, when you start looking at it, that it's just people. They really helped us to understand that it's just people. And when it's just people, it's not scary. It's just we're going to be there. They're there. And so we get freaked out from what we don't understand. We are scared of what we don't understand or know. But once you just realize they're just people. And the three experiences that you experience in the paranormal, number one is a poltergeist. A poltergeist is basically, we get freaked out as humans, and our minds are more powerful than what we realize, and we have the ability to move physical objects with our minds. When we get scared, we have that energy that we can move things in our environment, and we think that it's a paranormal experience, but it's just a mental experience. And so when somebody moves something with their own mind and it freaks them out, kind of like a cat getting freaked out by its tail. That's what a poltergeist is, and that's such a confused term that people use. And then secondly is a residual haunt. It's just imprinted energy, and I believe it's a scientific reality that when traumatic energy is left and the conditions are right, like a fossil, it's left behind. What's really interesting that Grant told me was he's had experiences where intelligent entities interacted with residual entities, because it confused the intelligent entity thought it was interacting with another entity, but it was just a residual haunt it was interacting with. That's a thing that they ran into in their career several times that I thought was pretty cool. So you got the intelligent, you got the residual, and you got the poltergeist, and those are pretty much the three types of paranormal experiences that we have.
Dad, thank you so much for coming on the show. We always love having you, and we love hearing your experiences, and we can't wait to hear more of them. What good things should we leave them with this week?
It's Valentine's Day
Yes.
coming up.
Yes.
For all you lovebirds out there and those who are not.
May all your husbands not forget.
Or wives.
Or wives. May everybody get a rose.
May your car always get warm fast.
Yes.
Even
in
in this cold weather that still is upon us. Thank you, Groundhog.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you guys lasted this long, we love you. You're
Much
incredible.
love.
We love you so much. You're the best. The bestest of mentions. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
And sip carefully.